This Sunday on Capital Connection, Illinois becomes the first state in the nation to end cash bail.
Most people who say, wait for justice, have never been on the receiving end of injustice.
Governor Pritzker celebrates the new law on a traveling circuit with the Black Caucus.
I am actually very confident that this is going to make policing safer, and it is going to make the public safer.
And Republican State Senator Darren Bailey enters the race for governor.
I will be a governor for the people of Illinois, guided by the lessons that I've learned from faith, family, and community.
Plus, Speaker Madigan pressures his hand-picked successor to resign after just 2 days on the job. And our featured guest this week, Republican State Senator, longtime Cook County prosecutor John Curran, who worked in Cook County's Civil Rights Defense Division, how he sees the restrictions on police use of force. And with a rash of carjackings in Chicago, House Democrat Marcus Evans wants to ban violent video games. He joins us to explain. It's all coming up on Capital Connection.
From the Illinois State Capitol Rotunda, Capitol Bureau Chief Mark Maxwell is asking the tough questions. This is Capital Connection.
Welcome to Capital Connection. I'm Mark Maxwell, reporting from the Illinois State House on this Sunday, February 28. Governor Pritzker took a victory lap this week, touring the state and celebrating the end of cash bail in Illinois, along with new restrictions on the police use of force and requirements for body cameras.
This legislation marks a substantial step toward dismantling the systemic racism that plagues our communities, our state, and our nation, and brings us closer to true safety, true fairness, and true justice.
Governor went around the state today signing an egregious law enforcement bill.
This is a great start in helping to reverse the negative effects of mass incarceration in America.
I'm sorry, but there's some instances where we need to keep somebody in jail because they're a very, very bad person, and gun crimes is one of those.
Some may forget that the systemic racism and discrimination that we fight against on a daily basis is not simply because we've heard about it from our constituents or other third-party sources. It is because we and our loved ones have experienced it, lived it, been traumatized by it, excluded by it.
How does somebody that's never worked one day in the street understand what law enforcement officers do?
It's terrible timing, and it's unfortunate that the people, these representatives and legislatures that pass these bills, they're not out here on the streets. They don't know what's going on.
But in the wake of George Floyd's murder, something else happened altogether. Those 8 minutes and 46 seconds caused a national awakening, shining the brightest of spotlights on the invisible sin of systemic racism that is embedded in our systems of government and in our laws.
The horrible crimes committed in Minneapolis, Chicago, and across the nation caused by bad actors in law enforcement must come to an end. It's not tolerated. And as a Republican, I believe no person should have to live in fear of their government. And we must address those issues to make sure that that is true. House Bill 3653 doesn't do it. In short, it is a confusing, inoperable, and contradictory attempt to reform policing and the criminal justice system.
Systemic racism has caused Black people to have disproportionate contact with policing, jails, and prisons rather than with entrepreneurship, post-secondary education, and economic opportunities.
It's very sad. At a time where we need people to be tough, we need the adjudication to be processed, to be tough on the gun crimes and the shootings. We need support from our legislatures, and not legislators pointing their fingers and saying that police are bad, because I think regular everyday people know that the police aren't bad.
You're going to lose law enforcement officers. We have a lot.
That's not exaggerated?
No, that is not exaggerated.
The facts are the facts. We do have two Americas, and we have two justice systems, and we have to make them one. Our goal in this fight is to rid the state of Illinois of systemic racism. My colleagues and I have put in our time. This legislative victory is a step toward reimagining the criminal justice system altogether.
People in Illinois have been divided. We've been used, we've been mocked, we've been marginalized. People in Illinois have been ignored based on their race,
Opponents of this law don't want any change, don't believe there is injustice in the system, and are preying upon fear of change to lie and fearmonger in defense of the status quo.
You're saying that Republicans are defending systemic racism.
I think change is hard for many of them, and many of them may not live in communities where they really understand what that means. So I don't put any ill will on that. I just think that we need change in the state.
This is a massive victory for the Black community, but it's truly a victory for all communities and all marginalized people, and it will reverberate for decades. The Champaign Bail Coalition that is represented here today, they only came about because we had so many citizens going to our county jail who could not afford to bail out of small amounts. And out of that necessity, the Bail Coalition was born here in Champaign-Urbana.
The elimination of cash bail basically says that we respect the honor system for violent criminals and gang members. Yes, the honor system.
The one person that hates a bad police officer most is police officers. What we wanted to see and what we still hope we see.
Why don't they speak out more?
We are. That's one of the things, that is a great question, actually. As police officers, we don't feel like it's been our place to speak out. We feel like we better not say anything. We're here we'll be judged, we'll be looked at. We have quit, that has now ended. We will speak out.
We're in the midst of 3 crises. I think we all know these crises. A public health crisis, an economic crisis, and a crisis with systemic racism, particularly in law enforcement.
But the crisis of not just COVID-19, but the crisis of 1619. Well, that white lion, that boat, that ship, that brought that scourge to the shores of this country, the white lion, that continues to plague this country. What I would say to opponents, and I would say to everyone who is listening to this, to listen to our speech, be able to distinguish and separate systemic racism from you being racist. We are not calling you racist by challenging systemic racism. They are 2 very different things. Acknowledge that systemic racism means that advantages have been built into systems that hold other people's back, and lift other people up. That is what we are challenging by challenging systemic racism.
The police reform bill is the final measure former House Speaker Michael Madigan sent to the governor's desk. Madigan leaves Springfield as the longest-standing House Speaker in American history. He was in elected office more than 50 years, but his replacement left office after barely 50 hours.
My name is Edward Guerra KODATT, and I am honored to present to you why I believe I am the best and strongest candidate for the 22nd District.
On Sunday,
and then I would accept a motion.
Michael Madigan appointed 26-year-old Eddie KODATT to replace him in Springfield.
My successor.
But just 2 days later, after learning of alleged questionable conduct, Madigan asked KODATT to resign from Springfield and his constituent services office, saying we are committed to a zero-tolerance policy in the workplace.
As soon as they found out, they obviously had massive egg on their face, and they took corrective action immediately. But I'm sure if they could go back in time, they would have done a better job of vetting. Comptroller SUSANA Mendoza called on KODATT not to collect the full month's salary for 2 days' work, $5,788. Because of this archaic law that exists, unfortunately, the state of Illinois requires that any member of the legislature get paid for an entire month, even if they only worked for 1 single day. That doesn't seem fair in any universe.
At a press event in Champaign, Governor Pritzker said state lawmakers should consider how they fill vacant seats in the State House moving forward.
Making sure that we're picking good representatives and good senators, that is very important. So I think it's worthy of review.
Madigan replaced KODATT Thursday with a new candidate, but would not elaborate on the accusations against him.
I think the proper questions were asked.
So when you say questions were asked, does that mean the answers were not truthful?
No, I'm not going to get into that. I'm just not going to speak.
When did you first learn about the?
A little bit ago.
Was it after?
And on Monday in Effingham, Republican State Senator Darren Bailey launched his bid for governor.
Pause for a moment and let's celebrate the end of the era of Mike Madigan. our state.
When we come back, longtime prosecutor in Cook County, now a Republican State Senator John Curran joins us. He says he supports the idea of ending cash bail with one major exception. That's next.